All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. And I've been kind of out of the shop for a little while and been concentrating heavily on doing some designing for the 3D printer, which is something I can do inside the house. Some of you may know I'm having some back issues, and so my mobility it's not what it ought to be. So, in the meantime, to have something to keep my mind busy and just keep making things, I've been working on a camera mount for the cameras that I use a lot here in the shack. I've come up with some laser cut boxes and stuff over the years that work pretty well, but I wanted an enclosure for the camera that would allow me to mount it on the wall to be used as an observation camera or mount it on the ceiling to be used as a Lightburn camera. And that's what I've been working on, guys. This is what I've come up with. And I've did this one in white, but I also have done one in black, and that's what's in the enclosure now. So the purpose of this camera, and there's two different ways that you can use it, and the way that I've got the file built, it'll cover all of that. So I'm just going to show you real quick. This is what it looks like, but I'm going to kind of go through the process of how I built it, the design, how it works, and the camera that you need to go with it and all that. So if that's something you're interested in for a camera alternative for as opposed to some of the more expensive options, then stick around and we'll be right back. All right, guys, so first off, the camera is made to where it can be mounted on the wall of your enclosure, and you can, turn it up like this to use for observation. And also, I've made this little optional shroud right here that you can cut a piece of acrylic. If you've got any laser safe orange acrylic and you have the means to cut it by either a bandsaw, scoring, or in my case, Monport 40-watt laser, you can cut yourself out a little small piece of laser safe acrylic. And what that does, guys, is that makes this camera where you can use it as an observation camera, or like I do in some of my videos, to where I videoed the machine doing what it's supposed to do. Also, a lot of these cameras have you have the capability of recording time-lapse videos, and so what that does is it keeps that blue flash from interfering with the video. Now, you don't have to use that. If you're using this as a Lightburn camera where it's going to be overhead and only used for positioning, then you don't have to add this part. These are actually two separate pieces when it's made, and so you don't have to use that one if you don't want to. And what I'll do, guys, is I'll actually show you the mock-up here in CAD of how I built this thing, and that way you can get a little bit better understanding of what it is and how it works. So I'm going to switch you over to a screen share and just kind of show you the parts of how I designed it and how I put it together. All right, guys, so here we are in Fusion 360, and as you can see, I've got it made to where it uses very few supports if you position these pieces right. If you position this piece with this facing the build plate, there's only place you're going to have supports is going to be in the little grooves that are there for the acrylic. And if you're not going to use this piece, then you don't have to print that one. You can not print the shroud if not needed. This piece, if you print it with this on the build plate, then there's not going to be any supports, because it's all everything from there up is more or less that needs supports. The only place you'll have some tiny supports is going to be in the holes. Those holes are a size. I made a pin, and you can see the little pin that goes with it there. The pin, I mean, if you wanted to use the pin and maybe put a little piece of a little bit of CA glue on it once you got it adjusted to hold it in place, that might work. But I'm going to show you the screws that I kind of designed this with these screws in mind, and I'm using screws in mind. The pin's handy if you print one out and you got it put up, keeps everything together. But the pin is really not, to me, it's not suitable for holding it together with any tension. The base down here, this base prints separate as well. Same situation, guys. If you print it with the flat side towards the work bed, you don't have any supports to contend with. And then you have the back cover. The cover is notched to allow the cable to come out. And if you print it, like I said, back down, again, you only have supports in the holes. So I printed it for those who are like me, who do not like dealing with supports. I printed it so basically you could put all of these in your work area at the same time and print them all. I just do them one at a time, and it works out pretty well for me. But I do have 3 holes for screws in this bottom part. and you don't have to use all three. One would probably hold it. I would recommend at least putting two in there. But these side screws are accessible with a screwdriver. When you hinge this thing up out of the way, you can actually loosen and tighten those screws with this assembled. Everything just snaps together. You can see right here, I've got these little teats that kind of protrude out, and they snap into these holes and just kind of hold the box cover on there. The camera just basically sits in there snugly. You have to kind of, get past these little teats here with it. So that's a little challenging, but you put the camera in there, it just kind of, the lens sticks through the hole. The board rests on this part, and then once you snap this piece in place, it holds pressure against the board holding it inside the enclosure. So it doesn't require you to screw the board into there. I did leave a little bit of an air gap right here because those cameras can heat up and get a little warm. And this box is not completely airtight, so it should allow enough air circulation to keep it from getting too hot. But to me, this is the best mount that I've seen for these little cameras. And like I said, these cameras come in fisheye as well as standard lens. And I'm going to show you what both of them look like here on my setup. All right, guys, yes, that file took me several days of working on it, an hour or two here and there, because I'm only working on it when I'm not having to ice my back or, get down on the floor doing stretches or whatever. So it took me a while, but it has gave me something to keep me busy. It's a very useful design for what I do. I use those cameras in a lot of my enclosures. And I'm just going to show you the view. And I will be dropping links to the camera down below if you want to get one of those. Those will be affiliate links, of course. But it's an economical camera. I know a lot of these Lightburn cameras, run $100 or so. And even if you do get some of these observation cameras, you don't have the option of putting some kind of laser safe material over there to get that blue glare down. So if you're wanting to make a video of your laser running, maybe you're wanting to make yourself a short, or you're wanting to make yourself a reel for Facebook, you're going to have that blue flashing light, and somebody with epilepsy watches it, it's going to give them a seizure. So doing this enables that camera not to show that light. And I'm going to demonstrate that before we get through with the video using the one that I have in my enclosure over here. So I'm going to swap over to the overhead view in my small enclosure and show you what it looks like in there. So as you can see right there, guys, to the left of the video, there's my little black camera mount that I have in there. Just one of these. It does have a piece of laser safe acrylic on it, so that I can use it to watch the burn and not have all that flash. This is one of the cameras that I'm going to drop the link down below. This is the fisheye. There's two different variations of that camera, and you'll be able to see on my Amazon account here in just a minute how many of them I've bought. That one is the 180 degree fisheye camera, but they also have a 75 degree, which is what that little observation camera on the wall there. It's the 75 degree, not the 180. Also, over here in Enclosure Zilla uses the 180 degree fisheye camera as well. And as you can see everything in the enclosure. You can see the entire workspace. I've been using that camera with my enclosure now since I built the enclosure. So I'm guessing this is about 8-9 months now, and it works great. Accuracy is acceptable, especially in the center of the work area. So these cameras, like I said, I'm not recommending a camera that I don't use. You guys, y'all ask me all the time, what cameras do I use? And this is it. So these cameras, like I said, they're really handy, but they come bare bones, guys. It's just literally a camera lens stuck to a board with a cable on it. The cables aren't all that short, all that long. But I will tell you, if you have an enclosure, a lot of times if your enclosure is not near your machine, you're going to have a USB hub or an extension cable or something to get to your machine, unless you buy, a 20-foot USB cable. So what I have is a USB hub that is attached to the side of my small enclosure, and the laser and both cameras connect into that USB hub, and then I have one USB cable, a longer one, that runs over to my computer. So that's how I would recommend you do these, because like I said, the cords on them aren't that long. I don't know if they specify in the machine, but I'm going to say some of them they're like 3, maybe 4 foot long. So you're based on your enclosure and where your computer is, but I can tell you they work with USB 2 hubs without any issue. I haven't had a problem, and that's what I'm running one of the cheapest hubs you can get on Amazon that's a USB 2. So I want to get over here now, and I'm just going to show you how the observation camera works with the acrylic installed. All right, guys, so I've got the algo fired up over here, and I've got a little Christmas design that I'm going to be burning to a piece of glue on. So that's what we're looking at now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera on, set the focus, and then we're going to run this, and I'll show you the difference it makes having that acrylic on there. All right, so as you can see, it's got a little bit of an orange tint to it, but this is where it comes in handy. I've got the laser running now, and you don't have the blue flashes that you would normally have without the acrylic. So if you're trying to use this for video production, as I do when I'm doing my videos, this little mount adds another level of options by having this acrylic on there. So, you know, normally you would have the blue flash, and it would definitely interfere with your video, both the quality and the likelihood of people being able to actually make out what's going on inside the enclosure. So I'm just going to stop that. No need letting that burn. But guys, that was kind of what made me think this thing up. Is I wanted to be able to use a camera in my enclosure. The way that you attach the shroud, the only two parts that don't snap together are the shroud and the main body. Now, what I did is I used a little CA glue and just attached the shroud to the body right here. You just line them up, get the hole right, stick it together, hit it with some I've lost my word, guy. I guess it's the medication. Activator. Hit it with some activator, and it's good to go. But this is the way the glass goes in. My early prototypes, the glass was really, really hard to get out. That's why that one, I'm not really taking it out and in. And I've already CA glued it together. I'm going to print me another one where I can. But you just basically take the acrylic, line it up with the little grooves, and you can take and push it down in there. It's a little tight. I did add a little bit of extra space in case your printer doesn't print exactly the dimensions. But once you put it in there, you can always pop it out if you don't need. You're just going to have this little piece here, kind of protruding out there in the middle of your of your enclosure. But it does not interfere with the camera. It's far enough behind the lens that it doesn't interfere, and you'll have a millimeter or two clearance between this and the lens of the camera. If you ever need to clean this, you can remove it, take it out, clean it, replace it, whatever you may need. If it gets dirty enough that you can't get it clean. All right, guys. As far as the cable management when you put this thing together, I will tell you this: the way I built it, this back piece, like I said, it pops off right here. When you put the board camera in there, the ones that I use, the plugs usually over on this side, and I just make the cable loop and come out this way. When you start to put the top on, you just kind of hook it with the little hole in the top, and then squeeze this box. You got to kind of squeeze it together to get it inside where the little pieces that kind of grab it are, and then you push it in there and it holds. But one thing I will tell you is that if you do that before you put the hinge joint onto this piece, you can actually run the cable out through here, then slide this together and put the screws in from either side. That's the way I've got mine in the enclosure. I've got a little small screw coming in from either side, and then I've got mine wall mounted, so it's kind of like that. So I've got two screws here, and then I'm using the two outside screws here as well as the top one. But I oriented mine this way, and the camera, of course, is turned the other way. But you can put that together however you choose. It will, like I said, it does. You could even do it upside down if you wanted, but it does allow you to mount it like this for the wall or for the ceiling. If you wanted to mount it up top of your enclosure, use it for Lightburn like I do in some of my other ones, you could do that. If you do it for Lightburn, though, you won't need to print the top part for the acrylic. That's only for if you're using it as an observation camera. For instance, if you've got a camera set up to where you can watch your machine remotely, or like I said, you can do those cool little time-lapse photographs on your machine. All right, guys, so I may have piqued some of your interest with the whole time-lapse thing, but yes, this camera does have, using Windows native system, it does have the potential and the capabilities of doing time-lapse photography while you're engraving. That's another reason that you may want the shield on there to keep the laser light off of it. And so I want to demonstrate that to you, how to use this camera in the camera settings to turn on time lapse, and how to use it to make a time lapse video using the camera that I'm going to drop down below, the mount that you can download from me and print yourself, as well as the basic Windows software. So guys, the whole package, you know, you're going to have to buy the camera, you're going to need to get the download for the file, which I'm going to probably stick a $5 price tag on the download. I think that's more than adequate. You put that with the camera price, it's a deal. So before we go over and show you the time lapse, let me get you over here to Amazon and just show you where to get this camera and the options, so you'll know what you're looking at. I will drop links as well. So here we go. So this is the camera that I've been using, guys. And if you want to, you know, some folks want to say that I don't use the camera, you can check right here. Purchased 4 times. Last purchase July the 11th of 2023. And I purchased that. I think that one was the one that we put in Klein's enclosure when we built it for him. It is an 8 megapixel USB with a 180 degree fisheye lens. This is basically for like Raspberry Pi applications and that kind of thing. That's what the camera looks like. It is compatible with all these different operating systems if you have that question. And it does come also in a 75 degree lens. And as you can see, 75 degree lens, which is the one I'm using for an observation camera, I purchased it April 6th of 2023. So when you're ordering this, guys, you need to decide, do you want the fisheye, which is going to be this one, or do you want the 75 degree? And the difference is the ones that I've got in my overhead cameras, I use the fisheye, and I recommend the fisheye for that. It takes the worry of not being able to have your entire workspace in there. It takes that out. Observation camera wise, I would go with the 75 degree, because that's more to what you're going to be used to if you're trying to create videos, do shorts, or any kind of content creation, or just, you know, watching your machine. That's a little easier to follow. So enough of that. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to start an engrave so that we can pull the camera up, and I want to show you how to do the time lapse. So we got that started. Let's go over into our camera. This is the camera app for, well, that was actually the where you keep the pictures. This is the camera app for Windows. This is just a default camera app. When you go in here, there's settings over here. You can change the photo quality. It's set to 8 megapixels. And there's this little switch right here for time lapse. Once you make sure that that switch is on for time lapse, that's all you got to do in the settings, guys. You go back over here. There's this little timer button. You can change. You can click this and change when you want it to take a picture. If you want it to do let's say 2 seconds, just for the sake of demonstration, we'll do 2 seconds time lapse. Realistically, you probably would do a 10 if it's going to be a long engrave, but for the sake of a shorter video, guys, we're going to do a 2-second timer. Once you hit the picture button, the take a picture button, it's going to sit there. Now the little blue circle is going to show you. It's just going to keep taking pictures until you hit that photo button again. It's going to take a photo every 2 seconds. If you had that set for every 10 seconds, then it would take a picture every 10 seconds. And once it does that, guys, I'm going to let it take a few more pictures. I'm trying to keep my air exhaust off so it's not as noisy. But it'll just sit there and take those photos. If you wanted to do video, you could also do video as well, of course. But the time lapse is something that kind of needs a little explanation. So I'm going to stop it now by hitting the photo button. Well, mouse didn't click. So I've stopped that, and let's stop our engrave. I don't need that going. Home the machine so I don't forget. But then once you do that, of course, guys, you can go in here to the photo library, and I'm just going to go into the folder where those photos are kept. These are all photos of what we just did. All right, guys, so there you have it. And before we end, these, and I'll put them down below as well, these are the screws that I kind of designed this thing in mind to be used with. And these are just 8 by 1/2 inch flat Phillips head screws. They've got a little Phillips head. They look really small, really short. They're good to hold the parts together as well as mounting it. And you can get these at most hardware stores. Just make sure that you get number 8 by 1/2 inch. If you go too big, you could go smaller than that, but if you go too big, you're going to bust the piece that you've printed, trying to put that screw in there. These are really tight, but so far I haven't cracked any parts. When I built it, I built the whole 3 millimeters, and these seem to be able to cut through without busting the ones that I've printed. Now, you know, your printer, your materials, it could be different, but you know, worst case, you could drill them out if you needed to with a drill. But I haven't had to modify mine. I've just taken these screws with a handheld screwdriver and used them to put them together, and it works fine. But I'll put all the links to all the stuff that you need if you want to try one of these cameras down below. And I hope this is something helpful for you guys. I've been trying to improve my quality of video when I'm trying to demonstrate to you guys. And before, I literally took a piece of tape and taped a piece of acrylic across the top of my camera, and it just looked kind of bad. So once you get all the parts printed out and everything put together, between the screws, the camera, and the mount, you know, you're getting yourself a nice little camera for less than, say, $70 for everything together. That's a lot cheaper than some of the other cameras on the market, and I know there's plenty of them out there, but this one has capabilities to do what you need to do and works well with Lightburn or just used for observation. And it's not a bad quality. 8 megapixel camera, not bad. So I hope this helps, guys. If you, like I said, if you want the files, check down below. Check out the Etsy shop for the download. And until next time, be safe and have a good day.